Hello and welcome to the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I'm Jackie Tomes, and on this show we are having open and honest conversations about investing in property in a way that ultimately creates freedom and of course cash flow from those that have been there and done it. So we're sharing the highs, the lows and the lessons that we've had along the way, everything from big picture strategy and maximising your potential right down to practical solutions. And this week we are joined by two of our mentees, Dan Anson and James Baker from Cornwall Living Property, and this is an incredible episode. And I really struggled to know what to call this because there's so many golden nuggets of information in here. How they've raised over 16 million in private finance, how they've learnt some really tough lessons around firing and hiring and how to do that at the right time, and the various challenges that they've come up with along the way. So you are absolutely going to love this. So whatever you're doing, stop multitasking and make sure you put your full attention on this. This is Dan Anson and James Baker with Detail Dave on how they go from being a property investor to a property business owner. Let's do this.
Hello, Dan and James. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the listeners, we got two prolific investors here. These guys are based down in Truro and have dabbled, or more importantly, done amazing work in all sorts of properties across the board. And we've been working with them about 2 years now. And it's been a pleasure to watch them grow. When they came on board with us, they were already doing a heck of a lot. They had a huge amount going on. We didn't really need to help them motivate them to do anything. In fact, if anything, all we've done is kind of tried to clean up around them, help to keep things more as robust as possible and improve the business wherever we can with our knowledge. So it's just been such a joy to work with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I just thought maybe if you wanted to give the listeners just a little bit about what kind of stuff you focus on down in Truro, the type of stuff you guys have done in the past and are doing right now, that'd be really great for everyone.
No problem at all. Well, I'm James. I'll take this one, Dave, and thank you for having me on the podcast. So, yeah, Dan and I, we've been operating now about 4 years, haven't we, in total? And ultimately, we wanted to adapt from the offset, really sort of a buy, renovate, refinance model. And we were specifically going after sort of the HMO market. And we were looking even more specific in that arena of like grade 2 listed buildings. Although a past mentor, not you guys, had said to us, don't touch grade 2. But we found very quickly that this sort of became a bit of a niche for us, just because there was less people going for them, and we knew that we could get some really good below market value deals on it. So we started progressing with doing HMOs, buy, renovate, refinance. When I teamed up with Dan, already had quite a good black book really of investors from a previous job where I was managing luxury holiday lets, and these guys had fairly decent pockets for investment. So we took advantage of that really, and got started on our first HMO, didn't we? That was in no, it wasn't actually.
No, it wasn't. It was a block of flats.
A block of flats.
Yeah. First it was a block of flats, but we did all these at the same time. So we did an HMO, a block of HMOs, but we met 4 years ago. James's background and my background. We met at a networking event that I was hosting, and we just built from there, really, didn't we? So it's been pretty good. Yeah. So again, a mixed portfolio, Dave. Single units of flats, HMO units. We're in our office block at the minute, which is commercial offices as well. So
a few SAs as well, haven't we?
Yeah, SAs, accommodation as well. Yeah, so a little bit of everything really. That's diverse.
Yeah, and actually, just for the context, James, obviously your background, you've said you did managing of high-end holiday lets, basically. So you had a lot of property experience there. Was there any other property experience you had prior to stepping in with Dan?
I was kind of exposed to it as a kid. My dad had an estate agent in Reading, which is where I'm initially from back in the day, but I never wanted to be an estate agent. But I did get a little bit of exposure to property developers because my dad was obviously working alongside those developers to sell the properties. And I just knew from day one, after doing a couple of years with my dad, that the business was not for me, but I did want to be a developer. So I knew it from quite a young age. Work experience at 14, really. I love the whole idea of creating a property out of nothing, so new builds, but also just loved getting an old building that was in rack and ruins and bringing it back to the market. And at the time, I didn't really see many of my dad's friends who were property developers that weren't doing badly. I thought that's good enough for me. I had a passion for it, I suppose. And then working with those holiday lets down here in Cornwall and what they were charging per week. I mean, on some occasions you were looking at sort of £25,000 per week to hire these properties, and you had made in Chelsea lot kind of guys coming down to hire it for a week, and it fascinated me and gave me that hunger to start my own portfolio really. And actually, they certainly weren't on properties of that scale, but I built up a small portfolio for myself during COVID, actually, when everybody said the market in Cornwall was going to be on its knees as we went into the first lockdown. But I took no notice of that and started buying up a lot of small holiday lets. And that was just before I then met Dan, and then we joined forces and went a lot further together. So, yeah, kind of been in property since a young age, I guess.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, James. It's in the blood, clearly. It's in your bones. I want to come back to kind of the relationship with Dan and why you've started working with someone. But first of all, Dan, I'd just love to hear, what was your background before teaming up with James, property-wise?
Property-wise, I was green, really, Dave. Not a lot at all. I qualified as a PE teacher, secondary school PE teacher. I left teaching, went into sales, and I was in construction sales. So in construction sales, I was working for an insulation manufacturer. So I was working with developers, architects, building control. So I was getting exposed to development as such from that role. And from there, it gave me a little bit of a hunger to learn a little bit more. And as such, I ultimately got myself educated. I was traveling around the country. I was doing like 1,000 miles a week. So I was listening to podcasts, reading or listening to audiobooks, and just trying to learn as much as I possibly could. And educated myself with rent to rent. I then ended up starting a rent to rent portfolio, which got myself out of the day job as well. And that's when James and I started then hosting a property networking event down here in Cornwall, which James then started attending. And then we started we just met. It was actually a Christmas do, wasn't it? One of the Christmas networking events. We said, look, I race you to get out of your day job. And I remember going for a run in COVID, in the morning of COVID. And I just remember listening to a podcast. It was like, well, so many millionaires are created in a recession. I could say, like, this COVID, this is just surely going to cause a recession of some sort. And I remember I then picked up the phone to James and said, look, I think this might be the opportunity that we've been waiting for. Shall we team up and see what we could do together? And the idea that James already had a little portfolio himself. And we just said, look, if we're going to do it together, it means that we could do bigger things and go a bit quicker as such, or go further together, as the old African proverb is. So, yes, that's it, really. We teamed up in COVID. Bought our first development, which was an old commercial guest house as such, and we converted it into 5 really nice high-end apartments, which we still have now, and they've been rented ever since. And at the same time, we were obviously just coming out of our day jobs respectively. So we got James out first. I hung on a little bit longer to help, bit of security and keep floating us a little bit month by month, and then I ended up leaving the year after James.
Wow. And then, in terms of the relationship between you guys, obviously you've teamed up because you felt like you could move faster, do more. So where have you found your respective roles within the partnership have ended up? And is it where you originally thought? Were you kind of, when you teamed up, were you like clear on what you were going to do, or are you just going to be there for each other and just make it happen faster? And then where have you ended up now?
I always saw myself as a networker. Obviously, I used to run the networking event. If I'm honest, I used to force myself to do it. I'm honest, Dave. I don't like talking for the sake of talking. If I've got something to say, I'll say it. Otherwise, I'll happily sit in the quiet. I don't mind that. But I always saw myself as I'd be the deal maker, or the one to network and create the deals and be on the front of the house. I thought that would be my role. But I very quickly, having met James and spent obviously a lot of time doing those roles with James, I realised that he actually loves it, where I loathed it, and he was actually far better than I was. So I naturally then started taking a bit more of a back seat, let James be front of house in that respect. And yeah, I suppose the main roles are James is front of house, dealing with investors, finding the deals, funding the deals, and then at that point, I'd be the one slightly further back of house with a little bit more construction background than James, and the contacts and things. I'd be the one. I like my data. I'm a bit more like you, Dave, and a bit of a geek, and I like a spreadsheet. And I'd be on the figures on the back end, really.
Great. So James is Jackie, and Dan is Dave.
Yes. Yeah.
There we go. Jackie and Dave, James and Dan, done.
I said if only he was attractive.
I think also just sharing that journey together is so much
Yeah.
better, and I find it a lot more enjoyable for many reasons working with Dan. I mean, I come from a fairly entrepreneurial family. My mum's she's a psychiatrist. She's got her own business. My dad had his own business. My brother-in-law, he's got his own business, and it's an ongoing joke in our family. But I was selling mobile phones at my granddad's funeral, and I feel bad about it now. But I was that kid selling sweets and all of that stuff at school. But I also had another business before I came to Cornwall that was doing rock climbing and scuba diving holidays abroad. And I had a business partner then called Tim, and it was very, very similar. I was doing the sales, and because that's what I really enjoyed, really, and finding the resorts that we could operate the holidays on. And he was very much doing the administrative side and the spreadsheets and the cash flow forecasting. But having done my own property portfolio on my own, doing the holiday lets, I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as when I was working like with Tim at the time. So when Dan sort of asked me, I sort of thought, this is the Romeo and Juliet, really, because I really wanted to, I knew we could do great things, but I actually, hands up, I don't enjoy it, and that's probably why I'm not very good at all the administrative side. Not saying that you just do that, but you obviously you do a lot of delivery of our projects, as we'll come on to later. But I just think if you join up with somebody and you both just do what you're good at, you are naturally going to enjoy it more and go further together.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, James. I think of it as like when you're a solopreneur and you're all on your own, you have to do the stuff you love and the stuff you hate. But the problem is with the stuff you hate is you just don't do it as well, and it drains more of your energy than the stuff you love. So it's holding you back. It's literally like a little weight slowing you down, making things harder. The emotional journey's worse because there's just more effort being used on those things you hate, and the things just what I'd say not in your flow doing. Flow's not the best word in the industry, but it kind of does. Flow for me does explain this feeling of like, well, I'm just going with the flow and I'm doing something that feels naturally like it's in the right path for me. And when you team up with someone, it's not just 2 times people, is it? It actually 4 times productivity, because you're both doing the stuff you're better at, and the less of the weight's holding you back. So you double each of your powers, as it were, powers of use and time.
I would also say, like, genuinely, not be too sickly. I am filled with gratitude for meeting Dan, because when I met Tim with my old business, I met him at university, and that was pot luck. I was just in the right room at the right time, and it worked. But I learned with Tim what to identify in a person that you're going to be able to get on well. Dan may be very good at delivering projects, that type of stuff. He's very analytical with his numbers. That's great. I might be good at finding deals and finding investment and working with investors. But if we don't get on very well, just because we're like chalk and cheese, it doesn't worry. But when I met Dan, I met him a few times before we actually got into bed together. But I just knew that from my experience with Tim that it was going to be a good fit, because I'm not putting a lull on it. You do need to be really careful who you go into business with, not just from a trusting point. You should better gauge that anyway, although never say never. But you'll get that feel with that person, whether you're going to get on well with them or not.
It's like going on a date, isn't it? You can go for dinner with anybody, but that meal might be pretty sickly if you don't get on with it.
No,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's absolutely true. So true. So you got to have good symbiotic skill sets that are going to work well together, but you've also got to like each other to have a good like each other in the right way, so that you can actually work well together. Because there can be people you like, but who you're just like, I could never work with that person. I could not work with that. Yeah, and respect. That's true. That's true. Anyway, look, I want to get on to some of the meat of what I want to cover today, which is some of your biggest learnings over the last couple of years, basically, because I've seen you guys go from that super growth phase, which you've just described, and take that from what is quite a chaotic phase through to something that is much more organized and working for you. And you've gone through a lot of pitfalls along the way, and navigated your way through them very well, and then come out the other side. And this is the point at which you can really pass on some learnings, and you can really talk to the younger versions of you out there who are trying to do similar things, and just say, look, guys, here's some of the things you've got to watch out for. So I really want to hear those learnings over the last couple of years. I'll just hand over to you. Let's start. Biggest learning, biggest thing you would say is on your minds for people to know.
First, what I'd say is just the speed in which we've grown And I think you mentioned at the start of the introduction, Dave, is that you guys entered our journey. I hate the word journey; it's a bit cliche. But our business. You guys joined us because we see you guys as you're our mentors as such. Yourself, Jackie, and Dom. But I think you joined us as we were just kind of at the massive growth spurt. We were probably midway down we're M5 Southwest. We're flying down the Southwest, the M5 currently in the fast lane, and we've got a tail behind us. So we've got so much. We're just going so quick. Like one time we had 3 projects going on, but when we're saying projects, we've got 3 multi-million-pound developments going on, and we were project managing them ourselves. A couple initially, because we were trying to get it all tied up so early on, we had the guys on day rate. So we weren't doing it in the most cost-effective way. We were kissing frogs, as we would say, in terms of finding contractors actually when we actually didn't get on with in the end because they weren't doing what they said they were going to do. We were running with chaos behind us.
You're in a day job.
And I was in a day job, yeah. It was just carnage. It was crazy. We have learned so much. I don't know if you've got enough time on a podcast for it, but I think that it's all well and good having these issues and finding learnings. If you do not adapt and learn from them, these issues and the mistakes, I think that is just a complete waste of time. So I think it's the most insane, that the definition from insanity is expecting the same, different outcome with the same actions sort of thing.
Yeah.
So how can you expect something to change? So yeah, I think the best thing the learning is slow down. Don't just go 100 mile an hour, because we have done that and we're at the consolidation phase. And now that we've come up for air, I'd see it like we've swum the channel and we're looking behind us and coming up for air and thinking, crikey, look at the carnage behind us right now. So we're just kind of like the consolidation, because it's just so manic, fast, and the growth has been exponential. Wouldn't change it, but I think now is the time where we've got you guys involved, because you just see how systemized you guys are, the way your property business runs and the systemization of staff. We just said, look, we need that, we want that. And the biggest learning is slow down for me. If I take the first one, the next one is find people that are where you want to be, because this road we're not the first people to walk this path. Like, why would we go and struggle and try and find our way through all the brambles if we've got someone who's already made their path and they've done these same mistakes or had these same teething problems? Well, we can learn from that and we can get to their position quicker if we just listen to them and take their advice and follow their guidelines and use their map that they've already drawn. So
it's all about refining the process.
Yeah, big time. So my first one, going too quick, and the second one is getting ourselves a mentorship that we believe in, trust, and actually respect. We are motivated by, for example, you guys and what you guys have achieved, and we are learning week by week in terms of how we can better ourselves and our business, and we are continually doing that thanks to you guys. So
thank you.
I think also, just on the going too fast, I mean, if you break it down for Dan and I, we're 2 extremely hungry entrepreneurs that want to do great things. We're very competitive by nature, and we're often in competition with each other with certain things. And I'm trying to learn a lot of stuff on sport with Dan. But I think that married with, at the time when we started, especially down here in Cornwall, there was such a huge opportunity. And I think that is why we were so aggressive and we went so fast. We were like, look, this is such an amazing opportunity, and we knew the growth that was happening and the wind was behind us. We just thought, we just got to go for it, really. And with Dan doing all a lot of the project management, and with me managing to raise finance quite quickly, we're like, the world's our oyster here. We can just literally go as fast as we want, and we did. That's why we had to juggle so much, but we were taking an advantage of the time that we were in, if that makes sense. I think if Dan and I just met now, with the way the market is, a very uncertain market, quite flat in certain areas, lending's a lot more difficult, investors less willing to give their money for investment, we would be at a lot slower burn at the moment, and you're not having so much capital growth at the moment. But I think that's why we did go so fast. It wasn't that we were that, I don't want to say reckless, but we were hungry. And we were quite lucky that wind was behind us, because we actually made our investors hell of a lot of money, and all of our refinances came out very, very nice. But that's because we had the wind behind us. But
we were just sailing a perfect storm as such. Was literally that, wasn't it? timed it well. Same with my rent to rent portfolio, Dave. If I went to try my rent to rent model now, it wouldn't get started because the market is completely different. So we timed it very, very well, and as a result, we capitalised on it.
And I think that like being the right model at the right time is always key. And you guys, you look back and say, oh, well, that wouldn't work now. Well, that's I think generally often the case that the model that was working 10 years ago isn't necessarily the model that works now, but there's always a model that will work and that is working. You just got to work out what it is. I'd love to, because I agree. For me, speed is a balance. It's a constant balance of pushing and being hungry, and then also just checking yourselves. And it sounds to me like basically, because James, you're completely right. You guys have in many ways nailed it, right? Your investors are very happy. Everyone's been paid back. The whole thing worked. But Dan, your first point of speed being like something that was potentially a negative factor as well. I guess I wonder if the normal balance point, you guys were taking advantage of an opportunity, and so you just went for it. But maybe there is a balance point that it would have been going for it in slightly more of a phased approach. So you're still making the most of the opportunity, just giving yourselves breathing space. Because to be honest with you, I don't think when you're doing good deals, it can go wrong. Like it could have been that you made the same mistake 3 times, and that mistake was big enough to topple you. And I think that's the problem that some people face, is that they go big like you did, and they miss something major, and then suddenly they're in a place where that major thing is enough to screw them over entirely. And you guys didn't have that. You were absolutely fine. But then there's the breathing space, the happiness levels, the ability to like actually clean up as you go and make sure the business is robust as you go. And I find that when I look at our own growth as well, we've had moments where we did the same, and we just went three projects at the same time, and we didn't phase it well enough. And then you do get hammered by a few of the same errors, a few of the same problems, the same bad builder on 2 projects, and suddenly you've got 2 projects with a bad builder. And actually maybe there was a way of you to just kind of allowed a couple of extra months. We're not talking years here. It's not like do 1 project and hold off on everything else. It's literally like, let's just get the first project going. Let's leave it for enough months to really see the shit hit the fan of what could go wrong in this, and then we'll try the next one just a few months later. And I think in the perfect storm, the perfect business, there is a momentum that is fast but also controlled, and that's the balance point for me, is like how fast can you go while still controlling it. But when you're trying to take advantage of an opportunity, it's so hard to see that, and you end up basically creating more hard work for yourselves. Like you talk about the chaos and like it being hard work, like you use the word carnage. I don't think it was carnage. I think that's an exaggeration, but I think you just end up in a harder place.
I think for me it was we didn't give ourselves a time to evaluate the whole cradle to cradle sort of thing from to refinance and paying back everybody and the interest and the bit. We didn't, because we were going so fast. As soon as that was like, right, we can now focus our attention back on this one without having the opportunity to sit down, actually, how did that one actually go? Mm-hmm. Like, where could we have done better on this one? All right, next time we're going to do it this way. Because we were doing so, we didn't get that opportunity or give ourselves the chance to evaluate the headaches or the hurdles that we had there. So we were facing them and some on the next one. And as James said, because we timed it so nicely, although we overspent on some areas of the build works, luckily, because we timed the market so well, it was covered. It was fine, because the refinances came out at the higher rate that we were working on initially. So we're actually fine from it. But now, having had the chance to sit back, obviously work with you guys and systemize all our DN analyzers, go through the build works, scrutinize every part of our project development and management and procurement. It's just enabled us to really cherry pick now. If we go for a deal, it's because it's a bloody good deal. Because we know what we've actually done in the past. We've learned a hell of a lot from the numerous sites and developments, multi-million-pound developments we've had and worked with now, multiple contractors we work with. We know what works, we know what doesn't, and we know what we need to look out for in future, which it's only bettered and made our development, our business stronger. But we're just very fortunate in that respect, and with huge humility. If the wind was sailing the other direction, it wouldn't be as rosy and as pretty. The market time. And
I would say, just knowing you guys and having seen you go through various positives and negatives over the last 2 years, you are one of the more robust human beings I've ever come across. And I do think you guys, of anyone I know, have the resilience just in who you are to cope with the challenges that come with the speed of growth you did, right? And that's a rare thing. So I guess I would say, of anyone, you're probably the best equipped to cope with a massive speed of growth. And you weathered the challenges. When challenges came, you problem solved them without toppling, where a lot of other people would have broken. They would have become overwhelmed. They would have gotten burnt out. It would have just gone horrendous for them. And then you get to a state where you actually can't problem solve. And then you turn yourself off property entirely, because you guys still have some passion, right? You still have some passion for this business and this industry, which I think a lot of people, if they go too fast, they kill it off too early, because it gets so hard for them emotionally to cope with the challenge they've created that actually the passion dies, and then that's it. You've actually destroyed the possible business and future you could have had. So I would say, yes, I think even coming from you, to hear you guys say slow down is a big learning. I would multiply that by many factors for anyone listening to this, because like most people don't have your resilience. Myself included, I'm a very stubborn and resilient guy, but I know I actually don't have as much resilience as you guys do. Knowing what you've gone through, I would
down to Dave is obviously our personal characters, but again, doing this without each other, we would have probably folded because the thought of having to overcome all of these hurdles on my own. I know James would say exactly the same. The fact that we've got each other to lean on. Again, I trust James in my life, and I know he'd be the same. Like, it's that whole. I can't remember what film it is. What's the film where he turns up, literally goes, right, I need you to help me get rid of a body, and the other one just says, "Are you using your car or my car?"
Yeah,
you'd be my guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I can lean on you for anything.
I think that is what has enabled us to be able to get over all these difficult times.
Awesome.
It's just been a lean on each other for that.
Yeah,
that's so nice to hear.
For me, that's both in business and personal. I don't want to throw my ex-business partner under the bus here, but it's more so business. We could get through anything, like I can with Dan. But also, when things are hectic with your business world, it can affect your personal, your emotional well-being. We know that more so now today than we ever have with mental health and stuff like that. Like, I couldn't do that previously because that individual was a bit more like, oh no, I'm not really into mental health, that stuff. But that's very accommodating when I'm having a moan or I'm at a point of tears. I'm a human being and I can do. We've been through some heavy stuff over the years, both personally and also in business. But yeah, God, dude, I'd rather share that storm together in the boat, and you just batten down the hatches and you get through it, don't you?
And that's obviously a benefit and another bonus of having mentors and a support network in you guys, because obviously you guys are the trio. Being completely honest, that one with you guys being Jackie, Dave and Dom in the DMA world, I never really lent on Dom, and I never really saw the value in all of the mental health stuff, but I've gone through a personally difficult year, and I've lent on Dom more than I ever thought I would need to, and he's been great as well. So it's just having that.
Then you allow him to cry.
I don't give him as much stick now.
Yeah, that's it. I have stopping Mondays now.
But no, it's all good. But yeah, again, learnings is having that support network, having someone to be able to go to if you need a moan or a vent or some extra guidance, really. I know if I need another opinion, I'll come to you, Dave, or I'll go to James, or if I need a little reality check, I'll probably go to Dom as well. So yeah.
And I just wanted to also just finish up this little subject by saying that every single property business that I've ever seen or worked with, or my own as well, has these challenges. It's across the board, everyone has it, and everyone needs that support of some sort. And like you mentioned, going over on your refurb, like over budget, I don't know a single property investor who hasn't gone over budget on a refurb, or at least minimum like one or one. That's would be ridiculous if it was only one. Everyone's gone over on many refurbs, and I just want to make that super clear that that's just part and parcel with being a property business owner, a property investor. That is literally the life of a property investor. It's all about how you deal with it, and the fact that you've managed to get a deal that's got enough fat in it to weather it, and that you've risk mitigated it in other ways, and then when it happens, you go in and problem solve and find another solution. That's what it means to make this business work. But to be able to do that, you can't be totally burnt out. And that's where people topple, and we talked about toppling earlier, but that is the moment that things go wrong and investment doesn't get paid back to investors is when someone gets burnt out and topples and it all goes to shit, basically.
I think the other thing, Dave, there is that, people do overspend on developments. And I think where it started to wear on us is we're like the third project now in a row that we've overspent on what we forecasted. Like that was because we hadn't been able to tweak our front analysis model. So it's all well and good. Yeah, people were, but you shouldn't keep doing that every single time. So that's where we're now at, is like, well, we've made it bulletproof. We know what we're doing. We know the mistakes we've made. We've now given ourselves the time to evaluate it. We've got now a robust system to do it. I'm all up for mistakes, but don't keep making the same bloody mistakes. So that's, I think, is the key for me. And the massive learning is it's all well and good, put your hands up, but don't make it again. Because we were going so quick, we weren't able to change it, but now we've got it all refined. It's far more bulletproof in that respect for us now, which is great.
Fabulous. Thank you for the honesty, guys. Right, let's go on to your next biggest learning. What's next on your list?
What I put down here? Obviously, we've realised actually time of the market is key. Like lending, we found that lending was with the refinancing side, like there's different hurdles in different time, different economies, there are different scrutinies. Lending was one, wasn't it, for you? That was one you mentioned.
Yeah, I think we all know in the property world, like lending is a massive kind of mechanical wheel in the whole process. You've got, lending most importantly on the front end to be able to buy whatever investment you're doing. Then, of course, depending what model you're doing, certainly for us, to buy, renovate, refinance, exiting onto mortgages is very, very important. For Dan and I, our mission really was to build a portfolio so that we could, increase passive income so that we could have a nice life and spend time with our children. One thing is, Dan and I, we don't work on Wednesdays. We've always had that day off in most cases where we can spend time with our family, and that's because of the passive income model. But that said, I was very maybe not complacent. I wouldn't say lucky there because you make your own luck, but I've always worked with high net worth individuals throughout my life. I've ski guided the rich and famous. I've worked on super yachts with billionaires and their toys. And surprise, surprise, when I moved to Cornwall, I was then managing millionaires' houses that they had a second home. They had their holiday little retreat. So I utilised that network, and because I already had a very good rapport and a lot of trust with those investors, because I managed their property, I always went the extra mile. I've always been in that sort of service industry to deliver a high level of service. I had that trust. So I've got to be honest, in the early days, it was quite easy to sort of get money, even though I didn't really have much track record behind me, especially when I started on my own doing the little holiday lets. I started with smaller amounts and then it increased over time. But lending, like I said, was quite easy to get. As Dan and I did more and more development, we built up our portfolio. We could give, different levels of security with that. People could see that we had a bit of a track record. But those investors that I met, in my job working with the holiday lets, they continue to want to keep investing more and more and more. The point I'm making is I then started to get a little bit complacent. It was like, oh, this is really easy, because it was just like I would present another deal to them and they go, yeah, no problem, sounds good to me. Whilst we've got 3 other deals going on with them, and it, looking at it now, we had a lot of eggs in one basket, so it was only really kind of going on, the DMA property strategy program that you were sort of saying, it's great you do have these. What if, God forbid, one of them got hit by a bus, or that they just stopped wanting to invest, or they wanted to start buying Bitcoin, or they wanted to do something else? Who would you actually have? And I was like, yeah, that's a really important part of our business, a bit of a bloodline, isn't it? So I think, big learning curve was to then start, speaking to other people that might potentially want to invest. And it wasn't long before people got interest, because, we do give very, very good rates of return and give nice levels of security, and we've got a portfolio to do that. But it was definitely a learning curve, because we did have on one development that our main investor didn't want to invest anymore. And it was kind of like, okay, but had I not spoken to you guys warming up other investors to draw some interest, I wouldn't have been able to go to them. So that was definitely a learning curve for us, that don't put all your eggs in one basket, regardless to how deep their pockets are, and have a number of investors that you can go to and try and keep all of them, happy and give them opportunities. So that's one thing on the front end. And certainly if you're doing our model, which is buy, renovate, refinance and exiting onto mortgages, I mean, I don't need to even talk too much about it. Mortgage rates today in, March 2025 or whenever this comes out is very different to what it was, in 2020. Put it that way. I've got rates on my holiday lets, which are generally more expensive at 1.4%, and they're on a 5-year fixed. It is crazy. Some of those are coming to an end. And now for me to renew those, I'm looking at 7.6%. So it's, as we all know anyway, it's crucial to do your numbers on the front end, but I have found in the last year, 24 to 25, lending is a lot stricter. You may have a good portfolio behind you or not. It doesn't even make a difference in some cases. Lenders are finding ways to actually say no. They're being audited more. This is what I found from the brokers, and a little bit like you get speeding tickets. Mortgage companies they have to show a track record. They said no to an X number of people per month to show that they're being selective. And we all know lenders, they want to lend, right? That's the business they're in. So yeah, I really have a good broker on board to make sure that your exit is fully covered. That's been a big learning curve because, in the early days, we were using the same valuer again and again because they got to know who we were, the quality, and then that lender, that valuer then left the company. In fact, we had to go to another lender on this next deal that we did with a different valuer. And that valuer came out and there was $100,000 difference on the end gross development value. And I was like, whoa, right, this is big learning now, guys. We need to really, start building up rapport with other valuers and get them to maybe see, what we've done. So biggest kind of learning curve from me is the lending front on both, with investors on the way in and exiting on the way out. It's a very, very different environment now. A lot harder, unfortunately. It doesn't say it can't be done, but it's not as easy. So watch out for that.
What would be your advice? I'm going to come back to the investor piece. On the bank piece, what would your advice be around how do you mitigate that problem of, the banks? Because I agree, loads of people are complacent about it. They're just like, of course I'm going to be able to get lending. That won't be a problem. So what would your solution be moving forwards to cope with that tougher environment?
Honestly, I would probably say most people will just work off their gross development value. They know what the property is going to be worth at the end. They'll do that by getting comparables on Rightmove. That's one of the main areas they go and they think, yeah, it fits. They're also excited. They're hungry. They want to make the deal work, but make sure you've got those comps. That's a given. But I would go much more further on than that, and I would actually speak to the broker and say, look, I'm pretty confident we're going to get this GDV. This is the nature of the property. This is a covenant it's got on it. This is a situation we've got.
Shared
A shared access? It could be anything. Find out on the front end before you buy the bloody thing, is this going to be a problem with lending? And actually almost get your broker, there's nothing wrong with this, to go to the lender and say, look, I've got this property, it's worth this much, it's in this area, and it's got these two issues, before you've even put a spade in the ground. Just see whether they would lend on it, because lenders are just finding more and more ways to say no, and it's pretty scary if you're your sole focus on a buy, renovate, refinance model, because then you're stuffed, aren't you?
So we pay everyone back. So making sure you've got that money lined up on the back end is the key.
Exactly. So get your broker to run a case study with the lender prior to buying. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I would say I think you're basically, the security of exit is so key to the model working that you can't risk it in any way, shape or form. Anything you can do to avoid that. It's one of the reasons I like the bridge to term model, where you actually stay with the same lender, because at least then the bridge, and then they're going to take the term product as well, and that means for sure they're going to lend because they're already lending on the bridge, and they've already seen it and analysed it on that basis, and usually already provided you with a dummy offer basically to say indicatively we will lend out the other side. So I quite like that safety net of having the same lender for both the bridge and the term. Otherwise you do your bridge with one standard bridging company, and then you've got to go to market and find a brand new lender, and they could come up with anything. Similarly, like, it's always the devil's in the detail of the valuation, right? The lenders will look in that valuation for any tiny little thing that is a red flag to them. That's where they're looking for those red flags, particularly. Obviously, the legals might throw up some others as well, but I think the valuations it could be anything. So you're right, like getting that first valuation you have done or whatever, trying to get something for the end as well, up front for what it's going to be, so you can then pass that to lenders before you've purchased it and say, look, this is the work we're doing, this is what it's going to end up at, here's what the valuer has said, are you going to be happy to lend on that basis? Anything you can do. I think going overboard it's the industry of going overboard right now for me, because you're right, I've seen it. I've seen people get no's for the most stupid of reasons, and it doesn't make sense. And then the last thing I've started doing as well is lining up my second options early. I've just been like, okay, I'll go in with this lender, but who else is there? Maybe I should start that application now. Maybe I'll just start asking them straight away if they'll accept the same valuation for both, but they'll accept a rewrite. So I'll get my backup option going early, rather than waiting until I get refused and then going back to the beginning at that point. So those are some things I've done.
Yeah, and I would definitely, but we should be, as professional investors, developers anyway. You should be covering your exits. But Dan and I, we always try to look at, especially these days, even more so, the worst case scenario of costings. But you're telling me when I got that holiday let rate at 1.4% and the model fitted the buy, renovate, refinance, that I would have gone, I wonder in 5 years whether that will be at 7.6. I wonder. Anyone, my mentor, whoever would have said, you're mad, go a bit lower, maybe go about, let's say it goes up to 5. It's not going to be 7. Well, here we are at 7.5 for a 5-year 6. It does fit. And what does that look like for repayment per calendar month, with the money I can bring in? That's why a lot of holiday lets are now struggling. Be conscious of your environment. That's what I would say. What's the best?
And it just requires pivoting sometimes, because we can't anticipate the crazy crap that's going to happen. And sometimes something's going to happen you could never have anticipated, like you just described. And then you just got to shift and pivot. It's not the end of the world. It's not, you haven't failed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that, okay, it's a different environment now. What do we do next? And get problem solving. That's it. That's the life of a business owner. I'm just going to go back to your investor point, because I think that's really important. I don't think you can ever have enough money. I think, to be honest with you, always putting some time and effort into raising finance in formats, in environments, so you've got people that are around you with money who know what you're doing, who would be interested to invest, who might even have said they want to invest, and you've got lots of those around you. That's the best way to be robust, because when push comes to shove, anyone can pull out on you, and you want more money, they're ready to go. And it could be someone suddenly has a horrendous life experience, or, like I say, pushed under a bus, or they just suddenly change their minds about you, or something goes wrong and they suddenly become an evil bastard, and you just need to be able to replace the money with someone else, and you do need cash around you. So that was my advice to you guys, was to be doing that. But I'd say to all of our clients, right? So often the problem in this industry as a business property investor is that you kind of are either working on the deals or you're working on the money. You do the money, you get the finance raised, and then you go and work on the deals. So a lot of people have that problem, and they just stop doing anything to do with finance, and they just do the deals. But what happens down the line is that they run out of money for something, and then they've got to go back to the starting point of raising finance instead of having lots of money around them ready to go. And it means you can't solve problems quickly, and it becomes a stress, and it becomes a real, you have to take money quickly, or you actually might not be able to find the money. It causes other problems. So I think you're right. Lots of money around, you can never have too much money. Look, I'm out of time, so I just want to keep Forge on. Give me another big learning you guys have had.
I think the importance of actually accepting that you can go further with more people in terms of building a team and systemizing the business is another reason. Obviously, we really respected you guys and bought into you guys, and just in the way that you structure your business and your lives as investors and business owners. So I'm a control freak. Hands up. That's my confession for the day. I don't like handing over jobs. No one can do it as good as me. And as a result, I end up then putting a lot on my shoulders. So you guys have been rabbiting on at us for a long time to say, look, you need to get some help, guys. If you want to start systemizing this business and actually trying to step away from it, you're going to need to get some people on board. So you're never ready. I say this about having children as well. Like people always wait for the right times. Like, you're never going to be ready. Like, I don't think we weren't even ready to take on someone in our heads, to take on our first assistant. But as soon as we got them on board, it made us then systemize, make jobs, and actually hand more over. It just made us do it. And I think if it was up to me, Dave, I would have held off for another probably 6-7 months, because in my head, I wasn't ready. I didn't have the systems written up. I didn't have all the work to give them. But as soon as we just said, like, you know what, we bought into these guys, mentorship wise, we're here because we trust them. They're telling us to do something. Let's do it. As soon as we put our barriers down and stopped resisting and listening, we took on our first staff member, which was a virtual assistant. So it was just administrative support and assistance. That then helped us grow, and we ended up then very quickly, probably 9 months after that, actually taking a full-time in-house on the ground property manager, who's still with us now. And already I'm at a pace where I'm thinking, crikey, we could probably do it with someone else. But it's all those, by doing that, it's allowed us to put our attention on the more the more profitable areas of the business, the higher value tasks I'm trying to get to. So
that's it.
Yeah, just one of the points I was going to make, but we're learning, and it ties nicely into that, is because we have delegated some of the tasks, keyword for down there, delegate. You hear it quite a lot, but it is fundamentally important to have an on the business day, like nothing to do in the vortex of what AST are we drawing up, or we've got a tenant issue, we've got this, or I'm trying to find another investor, or Dan's trying to sort out an issue with the construction company or planning. It's actually a day where Dan and I, we normally do it away from the office, where we can actually, get down on pen and paper, normally outside on a walk. That's what we love, like being outside, and just work out where it is we're actually going, and how we're going to get there. What's our focus? And we try and have that, don't we? Regroup, once a week, just to make sure we are on target and know what our targets are. Otherwise, you just find you're in the hurricane and you never get a chance, and you lose sight of where you're going. And that's obviously like a major thing in your business. So that's been biggest learning for me, I think, and us.
Well, getting a team has enabled us to move further forward quicker and more efficiently, really.
Yeah.
So thank you. Dan, starting with the team point, looking back, you obviously would have pushed back another 6 or 7 months. I actually remember having to convince you so hard to hire that first person. I do remember that. It was funny, but then your stubbornness is what's made you very successful as well. So it's part and parcel of who you are. But once you get on board with something, you're so fast to adapt to it, and that's the magic of when it comes in and it's just like, that's it. Now we knuckle down on it. So I got you convinced, which was brilliant. And then you took on these team members. So if you were talking to a younger version of yourself, someone who's in you where you were before, what would you say to them? Like just hire sooner. What would be the advice specifically for them to do?
I'm a massive risk. I say risk averse. You're more risk taker than I am. High risk. I'm the more kind of like reining him back in sometimes. But I think I don't be afraid to hire earlier. Would be what I'd say is that when you are stressed and your to-do list is overwhelming, and if you look at actually what in that to-do list, if you were to categorize them as administrative or actions that you physically have to do, something that you could actually assign to someone else if they knew what they were doing. When you've got enough of those, you think, I could give someone 3-4 hours a day, maybe. Do it. I was trying to think, have I got like 6 hours a day for 5 days a week for someone? I was like, no, I haven't. But the way we did it is we took someone on part-time. They literally did 3 days a week for us, for 4 hours a day. And then because we were then crying for them to do more, we ended up handing them more. And the more, when we have someone there, you then end up delegating more and wanting to give them more. And I think the sooner you do it, I heard a great analogy. I was listening to one of Stephen Bartlett's books this morning, and his analogy of the monkey swinging through the jungle is like, a monkey does not know what branch he's going to grab onto next, but because he catapults himself so far forward, when he's in that room, he'll then find it. And now, if we hadn't catapulted ourselves into getting that assistant, we wouldn't have moved faster and wouldn't have moved forward quicker. So it kind of rang true with me on that one. It's like, a monkey doesn't know the next branch he's going to take. Well, we didn't know what we were going to hand over to our VA until we had them. And so you take that next branch, you're not going to know which one's going to come after. And I think just taking that first step, what's the worst that can happen? Sorry, didn't work out. We have to take a step back.
Yeah,
that's simply it.
And as a self-professed control freak, what would you say around the kind of letting go of that control to allow someone else to do the task?
I think it's also accepting that someone might not do it as good as you, and actually, there's some aspects that they're actually going to do better than you. So I think it's just accepting that they might not get it first time, but that then means that I've not shared it well enough. I've not given them the task well enough, and it means that I need to then learn from that. How can I make it better? So yeah, I think it's just coming to terms with accepting that that's life, and I will help make them a better person and make them do that task, or help them do that task better next time. We will get there in the end, but it's just accepting that it's not going to come straight away.
That's great. That's great. Okay, and James, just come on to you with your point of working on the business. How on earth do you guys, or suggest that other people, carve the time out to do that? Because most people are just so busy trying to run this whole show, property show, that they just can't even comprehend, when am I going to take that day or half a day or whatever to work on the business? So how would you suggest people do that?
I think it's just about being very, very strict, and you have to see it as the survival of your business. And if you don't do it, you are 100% going to lose sight because you're not taking focus. So just as much as you would take a 5-minute break to eat something, or have a shower in the morning, you always find time for that, and you always find time to sleep at some point, don't you? So I think you just need to be very, very strict with yourself, and know if you don't do it, your business is probably going to go in a very, very bad direction. Because I don't know any businesses that don't stop and take inventory of what they're doing and where they're going. Don't do that, and they don't not fall off the wagon, but they go into very dangerous waters. So I think you just have to make it mandatory. That's the key. It's non-negotiable.
And to add on to that, sorry to jump in there, but what we used to do, Dave, is try to give ourselves a whole day, but we ended up finding that we're actually just wasting time. Like what we've learned from you guys is actually be a bit stricter with your time. James, today, our on the business time is between 9 a.m. and 12 o'clock noon. We've got 3 hours. That's our window. Let's make a little task. You don't have to be unrealistic and try and set a whole day every week. Like we only work 4 days a week, so we've got even less time. So we've just had to learn that. Well, be strict with your time and who you're giving it to and where you're putting it. And that's just enabled us to have that.
Yeah. You'd make time to go to site or go and have a look at your property. You'd make time to go and have a look at a viewing that you don't even make an offer on. So if you can make time for that, you sure as hell can make time for yourselves and your business to make sure you know what pathway it's going on. Fact.
So true. And it's the word is discipline, really, isn't it? It's the same thing that gets you going to the gym in the morning if you want to keep fit. Discipline with yourself that gets you there. And I would say, as a tactic, the one that we use in our business the most is blocking in the time and treating it as a sacrosanct meeting. So if you guys are working together on the business, you literally block in your 2 hours or 3 hours of business working time together, and that is an actual meeting. That's literally where I treat it. Is that's the same as going to a meeting with an external investor. I would never not turn up to that meeting. So it's an essential part of the business. I've set the meeting, I've got to turn up. So it's the same with working on the business. Once you set it in the diary, you turn up and you do it, and that's it. There's no getting out of it. That's the discipline that I work to anyway, to try and make that happen. Once it's in the diary, I'm not allowed out of it, basically. It's like that the diary's the king. Diary's in charge. Okay, look, any final wisdoms and thoughts from you guys? We've covered some great stuff here, but any final wisdoms and thoughts of gems that you've learned?
Look after yourself. Genuinely look after yourself where you can, whether that's fitness, eating. You're only as good as your body functions, and your mind. So I really think that looking after yourself when you're in a high-paced business like this, you need to be as healthy as possible to run at the optimum. Fact.
Yeah, awesome. How do you look after yourself, James?
I go to the gym, try to get decent sleep, although that's difficult with children. But also, I like to go to the spa and go for a coastal walk. That's what clears my head, and I make sure I get that downtime. I often come in very early to the office at 7:30, so I can sometimes peel off at 2:30, and that's me time before I go home to my family.
Awesome. What about you, Dan? How do you look after yourself?
I'm learning to do that. If I'm honest, I'm still teaching myself and learning that I'm not invincible, because I don't do enough in terms of looking after myself. To be honest, Dave, I go to the gym a lot. I eat fairly well, but I need to give myself more time if I'm entirely honest, and
Okay.
from James from doing that. So I'm still working on that, if I'm entirely honest with you.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then, and the most important thing is you are working on it, right? You've got James there, you've got me there telling you, you've got all of it, everyone around you. So you will improve in it. That's how it is. What about big final wisdom from yourself then, Dan?
If I'm honest, I think I mentioned it already. Like, I wouldn't want to do this game, but any business without having someone that you trust. I think is a key one, and you respect. And I know that coming into, if I have a day off or anything like that, I know I can bank on James. I can go away, and I know that James and the boys, the team, will be fine. So I think having someone there in this with you is massive. So not going alone, going together, it will one be far more enjoyable, and you will go a lot further.
Yeah, I'd say yes to that. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. Like, I obviously love you, love working with you. We obviously invest with you as well. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you guys are as good as it gets as property investors. You've shown your true colours through all the challenges you've been through, and you've shown that, you know, when push comes to shove, you've got what it takes to make it all work, basically come out the other side with profit and make the whole thing work for those around you. So if anyone wants to get, hopefully we'll put your details in the show notes. So if anyone's interested to get in contact with you to find out how you can work with them, those details will be in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much for your openness and honesty with us today.
Dave, and thank you for always supporting us with the team. We definitely couldn't be on this journey without you, because it's massive value. So thank you.
So grateful to Dan and James for just their openness and honesty and being so candid. I think this conversation is going to help a heck of a lot of people, so thank you. If you aren't already connected with Dan and James, their contact details are in the show notes. Their website is cornwalllivingproperty.com, and their email addresses are also there too. James at cl-property.com and Dan at cl-property.com. Absolutely fantastic. And if you want to find out more about the Dealmaker Accelerator program, well, we've supported Dan and James over the last years, head on over to our website property-strategy.com/DMA. And then this time next week, you'll be joined by Dom and Dave, and talking about some of the secrets that the property training companies don't tell you. A wonderful conversation between those two guys. So until then, have a fantastic week ahead.